Jin's head throbbed as awareness returned. Smoke filled his lungs, and warning alarms screamed throughout the ship. He pushed himself up from the floor of the command center, blinking through the haze. Red emergency lights cast an eerie glow across the shattered displays. Status report. He coughed, struggling to his feet. Hull breach in sections 3 through 7. Life support operating at minimal capacity. Navigation offline. Communications offline. The ship's AI listed the failures in its calm voice. Planetary descent in progress. Impact in 45 seconds. Jin strapped himself into the captain's chair as the ship plummeted toward the unknown planet below. The diplomatic vessel wasn't designed for combat or crashes. It was supposed to be delivering him and 10 alien representatives to the Galactic Council meeting. Brace for impact, the AI announced. The ship slammed into something. Trees, perhaps, before skidding across the ground. Metal tore and systems exploded around Jin as he held tight to the restraints. When the vessel finally stopped moving, silence fell except for the hiss of ruptured pipes and the occasional spark from damaged circuitry. Jin unbuckled himself and moved carefully through the wreckage. "Hello? Is anyone hurt?" he called out. A soft blue glow appeared in the doorway. Nari, the Lumidian representative, stepped into view. Her crystalline skin reflected the emergency lights as she surveyed the damage. "I am unharmed," she said, her voice melodic despite the circumstances. "The others are checking the passenger compartments." Jin nodded, relieved. "We need to assess our situation. Do you know where we are?" "This system was not on our charts," Nari replied. "We were pulled off course by some kind of spatial anomaly." They made their way to the main exit hatch, which Jin had to force open manually. Fresh air rushed in, breathable, thankfully. Outside, a lush landscape spread before them under the light of twin moons. The ship had carved a path through a forest before coming to rest in a clearing. Soon, the other diplomatic representatives emerged from the wreckage, all female, as was custom for their species' most important ambassadors. Each was distinct in appearance, some humanoid, others drastically different from any Earth species. Meh, the aquatic diplomat, glided forward on her hover platform, her translucent skin revealing the flow of iridescent fluid beneath. "The communication array is destroyed," she reported, her words translated by the small device at her throat. Tai, the plant-like Florian, extended her sensory vines into the soil. "This planet is alive with nutrients," she said. "The atmosphere contains slightly more oxygen than most inhabited worlds." Jin ran a hand through his dark hair, trying to think clearly. As the only human representative, he felt responsible for their safety, though each of the aliens possessed abilities and knowledge far beyond his own. "The ship's scanner indicates no technological signatures on this planet," said Du, the mechanical hybrid diplomat, her metallic appendages interfacing with a surviving console. "No signs of intelligent life forms within range." "We need to establish shelter and survey our resources," Jin suggested. "Hyun, can you scout the perimeter?" The insectoid diplomat nodded, her compound eyes glinting in the moonlight. With remarkable speed, she scaled a nearby tree and disappeared into the canopy. Jin organized the remaining diplomats into teams. Some salvaged supplies from the wreckage, while others gathered materials to build temporary shelters. Despite their different physiologies and needs, they worked together efficiently. Sue, the avian diplomat, returned from an aerial survey with promising news. "There's a freshwater source approximately 1 kilometer east," she reported, folding her feathered wings, "and edible vegetation throughout the region." As night deepened, they gathered around a small power cell salvaged from the ship. Its soft glow illuminated their makeshift camp. "The ship's eye calculates that our distress beacon, if repaired, would take approximately 3 years to reach the nearest outpost," Jin announced. Silence fell over the group as the reality of their situation sank in. "Then we must adapt," said Hyun, the reptilian diplomat, her scales shimmering as she moved closer to the light. My species has survived far worse conditions. As has mine, added Yun, her gaseous form swirling gently within her containment field. We will endure. Jin looked around at these remarkable beings, the most accomplished representatives of their respective worlds. Under any other circumstances, he would have been honored to work with them. Now, they were all castaways together. We have knowledge from 10 different civilizations, Jin said. Together, we can create something sustainable here while we wait for rescue. The next morning revealed the full beauty of their crash site. 3 suns rose in sequence, bathing the landscape in golden light. The vegetation shimmered with colors Jin had never seen before, and strange creatures called from the distance. As they began constructing a more permanent settlement, Jin couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder. They were the first to set foot on this planet, perhaps the first intelligent life it had ever known. It's actually quite beautiful, Jin remarked to Ju, the silicon-based diplomat who was helping him construct a shelter. Yes, she agreed, her crystalline form refracting sunlight into tiny rainbows. Perhaps being stranded here is not entirely unfortunate. Jin smiled. They faced years of isolation on this unknown world, but somehow, surrounded by these extraordinary beings, he felt they might create something remarkable together on this paradise planet. Jin wiped sweat from his brow as he helped Ta plant the last of the native root vegetables they had discovered. After 3 weeks on the planet, their crash site had transformed into an organized settlement. The twisted metal of the ship now served as the foundation for several structures, each designed to accommodate the unique needs of its inhabitants. These will grow quickly, Ta said, her leafy appendages gently covering the planted cuttings with soil. The soil here contains minerals I've never encountered before. They seem to accelerate growth cycles. Jin nodded, looking around at what they had accomplished. Hyun had constructed ingenious shelters using techniques from her insectoid civilization, weaving salvaged materials with native fibers to create structures that were both sturdy and adaptable. Mai had established a water filtration system that provided clean water for all their varied biological needs. Jin, Su called from above. The avian diplomat circled overhead before landing gracefully beside him. We've spotted a herd of those 4-legged creatures to the west. Du thinks we might be able to domesticate them. Good work, Jin replied. Ask Yun if she would join the hunting party. Her tracking skills have been invaluable. As the only human among the 10 alien diplomats, Jin had initially worried about finding his place. Each of his companions possessed abilities that seemed almost supernatural to him. Nari could absorb and emit light. Yun could change her gaseous density to float or sink, and Ju could alter her crystalline structure to reflect or absorb different energy frequencies. But Jin had discovered that human adaptability was its own kind of superpower. His willingness to try new approaches and integrate different methods had earned him respect. He had become the group's natural coordinator, helping bridge communication gaps between species with vastly different perspectives. That evening, they gathered around the community fire pit. Despite their different biologies, all appreciated the warmth and light as the 3 suns set in rapid succession, plunging the landscape into darkness. We need to discuss the building project, Du said, her mechanical limbs placing a 3-dimensional model made of scrap materials in the center of their circle. The main communal center will require another 2 weeks to complete. The weather patterns suggest we should accelerate construction, Mai added, her translucent skin showing rippling patterns that Jin had learned indicated concern. I've detected pressure changes that typically precede storm seasons. We can adjust the work teams, Jin suggested. If Hyun and Ju focus on structural reinforcement, the rest of us can handle the daily gathering and hunting. As they discussed the logistics, Jin marveled at how far they'd come. What had begun as necessary cooperation for survival had evolved into something more. A community with its own developing culture, blending elements from 11 different civilizations. Their settlement now featured distinct zones, living quarters, a medical area where Yun could synthesize treatments from local plants, food preservation stations, and a research center where they analyzed the planet and its unusual properties. The next morning, Jin helped to install the solar collectors they had salvaged from the ship. As they worked, Jin noticed Nari standing motionless, her crystalline form absorbing the triple sun's light with unusual intensity. "Nari, is everything all right?" he asked. She turned slowly, her body glowing brighter than he had ever seen. "Jin, I feel different here. The light on this planet contains frequencies I've never experienced before. It's enhancing my abilities." This wasn't the first such discovery. Each of them had noticed changes. Ta's growth rate had accelerated. Eon's natural camouflage abilities had become more sophisticated, and even Jin had noticed his wounds healing faster than normal. "The planet is changing us," he said thoughtfully. "Or perhaps it is allowing us to become more fully ourselves," Nari replied. That afternoon, a disagreement erupted between Eon and Sue over resource allocation. Their fundamentally different evolutionary backgrounds, one predatory and ground-based, the other herbivorous and aerial, led to clashing perspectives on priorities. "We need more secure food storage," Eon insisted, her scaled form expanding slightly in agitation. "The local fauna will eventually discover our supplies." "The structural reinforcement cannot wait," Sue countered, her feathers rising. "If a storm damages our shelters, food storage will be irrelevant." Jin stepped between them, not as an authority figure, but as a mediator. "Both concerns are valid. Perhaps we can address them simultaneously if we reconsider our approach." He suggested a new design that incorporated elements from both their homeworlds, elevated storage platforms inspired by Sue's people, with protective barriers using techniques from Eon's civilization. The solution satisfied both, and soon they were working together, their earlier tension forgotten. As darkness fell that night, Jin sat outside his shelter, looking up at unfamiliar stars. Ju settled beside him, her crystalline form glowing softly in the darkness. "You seem troubled," she observed. "Not troubled," Jin replied, "just thoughtful. On Earth, we have a concept called utopia, a perfect society. Philosophers have debated for centuries whether different species could truly create one together." "And what do you think now?" Ju asked. Jin gestured to their settlement, where beings from across the galaxy had created something none of them could have built alone. "I think we're proving it's possible," he said. "Not perfect, certainly. We argue, we misunderstand each other. But we're creating something unique here. A new kind of civilization." Ju agreed, her crystalline structure shifting to reflect the starlight. "Born of necessity but growing into something more." Jin nodded. Whatever waited for them on this strange paradise planet, they would face it together, different in form and thought, but increasingly united in purpose. Jin had been on the planet for almost 3 months when Sue made the discovery that would change everything. The avian diplomat had been flying higher each day, mapping the surrounding territory in ever-widening circles. This morning, she returned to the settlement earlier than usual, her wing feathers quivering with excitement. "Jin, everyone," Sue called as she landed in the center of their camp. "I found something strange beyond the northern ridge. There are structures there, perfectly geometric formations that cannot be natural." The announcement sent a ripple of excitement through the group. They gathered around as Sue sketched what she had seen in the soil, a series of concentric circles with straight lines radiating outward like spokes. "Could it be another crash site?" Jin asked. Nari shook her crystalline head. "The pattern is too precise, too intentional." They organized an expedition immediately. Jin, Sue, Nari, Du, and Tai would investigate while the others maintained the settlement. As they journeyed northward, Jin noticed changes in the landscape. The plant life grew more orderly, almost as if it had been deliberately arranged. "The soil composition is changing," Tai observed, her root-like appendages testing the ground. Higher mineral content, traces of processed materials. After a day's journey, they'd reached the ridge Sue had described. From the top, Jin saw it immediately, A vast circular clearing in the forest below, with stone-like structures arranged in perfect symmetry. The entire formation was larger than their settlement, yet so precisely designed it could only be artificial. "This cannot be coincidence," Du said, her mechanical limbs extending to analyze the scene. This planet was believed uninhabited. They descended carefully into the clearing. Up close, the structures resembled smooth pillars, each covered in spiral patterns that seemed to shimmer when viewed from different angles. Jin approached one cautiously, reaching out to touch its surface. The moment his fingers made contact, light flowed from the spiral patterns. The ground beneath them trembled slightly as a section between pillars slid away, revealing stairs descending into darkness. "It responded to your touch," Neri whispered, her body glowing brighter in response to the unexpected energy. "Should we go down?" Jin asked, looking at his companions. "We came to explore," Sue said, her wings folding tightly against her back as she prepared to enter the confined space. The stairway led to a vast underground chamber that illuminated as they entered. Soft light emanated from the walls, revealing the space filled with unfamiliar technology. At the center stood a raised platform with what appeared to be a control console. "This facility is ancient," Du reported after interfacing with a panel. "Yet it still has power." Tom moved to examine strange containers along one wall, each holding different plant specimens suspended in a clear fluid. "These are preservation units. Some of these species grow outside, but others I've never seen." Jin approached the central platform carefully. As he did, a holographic display activated, projecting images above the console. The images showed the planet from orbit, then zoomed in to display different regions, each with distinct ecosystems. "It's a map," Jin realized. "But look at how the regions are separated by those straight lines. Those aren't natural boundaries." Neri joined him, her crystalline form refracting the holographic light. "The entire planet appears to be sectioned, deliberately designed." Du interfaced with the console, her mechanical appendages connecting to its surface. For several minutes, she remained motionless, absorbing information. When she finally disconnected, her optical sensors pulsed with intensity. "This planet is artificial," she announced. "Or rather, its current state is. It was terraformed by an advanced civilization approximately 50,000 years ago. They created it as a biological preserve, a living laboratory containing ecosystems from across the galaxy." The revelation stunned them into silence. Jin looked again at the holographic display, seeing it now with new understanding. The distinct regions weren't just geographical features. They were carefully crafted environments, each designed to sustain different forms of life. "The unusual properties we've been experiencing, the accelerated growth, the enhanced abilities, they're deliberate," Neri said slowly. "This planet was designed to support and nurture diverse life forms." Tom moved her sensory vines across another console, activating a different display. "These appear to be monitoring systems. The entire planet is regulated. Atmosphere, temperature, even nutrient distribution in the soil." "But where are the creators?" Jin asked, looking around the empty facility. "Why abandon such an achievement?" Du accessed more information before responding. "The data is fragmented, but it suggests they faced some kind of catastrophe. They left automated systems running to maintain their work. As they explored further, they discovered more chambers, each dedicated to different aspects of planetary management. One room contained what appeared to be communication equipment. "This could be significant," Du said, examining the technology. "If repaired and reactivated, it might be powerful enough to send a signal beyond this system." "How long would repairs take?" Jin asked. Elam studied the creature, her own predatory instincts assessing the threat. "Herbivore, but defensive. See how the front limbs have flat pads, not claws. It's watching to determine if we're dangerous." Yun floated forward slightly, her gaseous form shifting to a calming blue hue. She emitted soft harmonic tones that seemed to intrigue the creature. After several tense minutes, the massive animal shuffled sideways, allowing them passage while maintaining a cautious distance. "How did you know that would work?" Jin asked as they carefully moved past. "I didn't," Yun admitted, her voice coming through her translator. "But on my homeworld, large herbivores respond to certain frequencies. I theorized this might be similar." At night, they would make camp and share stories of their homeworlds. Jin told them about Earth's oceans and mountains, its diverse cultures and histories. The aliens described worlds with multiple moons, underwater civilizations, and cities built into the sides of volcanoes for energy. "My species feared other forms of life for generations," Du said one evening, her mechanical limbs maintaining their small power generator. "We believed our path of technological evolution was superior." "What changed?" Jin asked. "Meeting others, learning that different forms of existence offered different wisdoms." Her optical sensors shifted toward the group. "Much like our situation here." As they crossed into a new biome, a region where the vegetation glowed softly at night and the air smelled of sweet spices, Jin realized how much he had changed. Before the crash, he had been proud of his position as Earth's xenobiological representative, but his understanding had been theoretical, academic. Now he lived the reality of different biologies coexisting, adapting, and learning from one another. On the 17th day of their journey, they crested a ridge and saw it in the valley below. A massive structure that could only be the central facility. Unlike the smaller outposts they'd discovered, this one rose above the landscape, its gleaming surfaces reflecting the sunlight in rainbow patterns. "We made it," Sue said, her wings extending in excitement. Jin looked at his companions, each tired from the journey, but standing tall in their own way. They had crossed ecosystems designed to test the limits of different life forms, and they had done it together. "I've been thinking," Jin said as they prepared for the final descent. "Whatever we find down there, whether it's a way to contact our homeworlds or something else entirely, this journey has been remarkable." "Because we reached our destination?" asked Mai, her translucent form rippling. "No," Jin smiled. "Because of who we became along the way." As the three suns began to set in sequence, casting the valley in gold, red, and finally deep purple light, the 10 travelers made their way down toward the facility, and whatever discoveries awaited them there. The central facility stood before them like a crystal palace, its surfaces reflecting the morning light in dazzling patterns. Jin approached the main entrance with his companions, feeling a mix of hope and apprehension. Unlike the smaller outposts they had discovered, this structure showed no obvious way to enter. "The architecture appears to respond to biological signatures," Du observed, her mechanical appendages scanning the seamless wall. "Perhaps it requires specific input." Jin placed his hand against the smooth surface. Nothing happened. One by one, the others tried as well, with the same result. "Maybe it needs all of us," Jin suggested. Together. They formed a circle, and each placed a hand, appendage, or sensory organ against the wall simultaneously. The surface rippled like water, and an opening appeared. Light spilled out from within, inviting them inside. The interior was vast, a central chamber with a domed ceiling that displayed a perfect replica of the sky above. Consoles and equipment lined the walls, far more sophisticated than what they had found at the smaller facility. "Look at this," Mai called from a circular platform in the center. As they gathered around, a holographic display activated, showing the entire planet in miniature, with glowing points marking what appeared to be other facilities. Du interfaced with the main console, her mechanical limbs connecting directly with the ancient technology. After several minutes, she disconnected, her optical sensors pulsing with excitement. "I've accessed the primary systems," she announced. "This facility controls the entire planetary network. It can communicate with satellites still in orbit around this world." "Can we send a distress signal?" Jin asked, hope rising in his chest. "Better," Du replied. "I can establish a direct communication link to the nearest galactic relay station. We can speak with our homeworlds immediately. A stunned silence fell over the group. After months of isolation, the prospect of contact seemed almost unreal. Du activated the communication array. The room hummed with energy as the signal transmitted. To their amazement, the response was almost immediate. Holographic representations of officials from their respective worlds appeared before them, expressions of shock and joy visible, even across species. "Ambassador Jin, you're alive." The Earth representative's voice filled the chamber. "We've been searching for your vessel since it disappeared from our sensors 4 months ago." Similar exclamations came from the other diplomatic missions. Questions flowed rapidly. What happened? Where were they? Were they all safe? Jin explained their situation, describing the crash and their discovery of the planet's true nature. As he spoke, he realized something had changed within him. 4 months ago, he would have been desperate to return to Earth, to familiar surroundings and his own kind. Now, looking at his alien companions who had become family, he felt torn. The officials outlined a rescue plan. Ships would be dispatched immediately, but due to the planet's location in an unexplored sector, arrival would take at least 2 months. "We will arrange immediate evacuation upon arrival," the Earth representative assured him. "You'll be home before you know it." Jin glanced at the others. In their expressions, even those with physiologies vastly different from human, he saw the same conflict he felt. "Before we conclude," Jin said carefully, "my colleagues and I would like to discuss something privately. May we reconnect in 1 hour?" After the communication ended, they gathered in a circle as they had done so many times around their campfire. "I never expected to say this," Yan began, her scaled form shifting with emotion, "but I'm not certain I wish to leave." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the group. "This planet is unique," Tai added. "The biological diversity here exists nowhere else in the galaxy. As a scientist, I feel we've barely begun to understand it." Jin nodded. "And what we've created together, our community, that's unique too." They debated for the full hour, weighing obligations to their homeworlds against what they had discovered here. When they re-established contact, Jin spoke for the group. "We have a proposal," he began. "This planet represents an unprecedented opportunity for scientific research and cultural exchange. Rather than evacuation, we request official recognition as a permanent research outpost. We would like to continue our work here, studying both the planet and the ancient civilization that created it." The officials were surprised but intrigued. After discussion among themselves, they agreed to consider the proposal. Within weeks, the decision was made. Paradise Station would be officially established, with the current inhabitants serving as its founding administration. 2 months later, Jin stood on a hillside overlooking their expanded settlement. The rescue ships had arrived, bringing supplies, equipment, and a small number of additional personnel from each world. What had begun as a crash site was now transforming into a proper scientific base, with new structures rising alongside their original shelters. Neri approached, her crystalline form glowing softly in the twilight. "The botanical laboratory is finished," she reported. "Tai is already cultivating specimens from 17 different ecosystems. And the communications array, fully operational. Weekly reports to the Galactic Council begin tomorrow." Jin smiled. "Did you ever imagine, when we crashed here, that we'd end up founding an interspecies research center?" "No," Nari admitted. "But I believe this is what the planet's creators intended all along, bringing diverse life forms together to learn from one another." As the 3 suns set in their now familiar sequence, Jin reflected on their journey. They had arrived as crash survivors, diplomats from worlds that often struggled to understand one another. Now they were pioneers of a new kind of cooperation, their differences becoming their greatest strength. In the valley below, lights from the growing settlement twinkled like earthbound stars. Beings from across the galaxy worked side by side, united by curiosity and mutual respect. What had begun as a disaster had become something remarkable, A new beginning not just for the stranded diplomats, but potentially for interspecies relations throughout the galaxy. Paradise had lived up to its name after all.